Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Uncensored CMO. Now, I think it's fair to say that one social media platform that's had its fair share of challenge over the last few years has been X. So that's why in this episode, I'm really excited to be sitting down and talking to their very first global head of marketing since Elon took over, Angela Cepeda. And she shares with me all the plans that she and the team have got to win advertisers back and grow the platform. This is a really interesting conversation. She is wonderful. I know you'll enjoy this. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Great to see you.
Good to have you on the show. So thank you for doing this. Now you've just moved, recently moved, not just moved, but recently moved from 5 years at Hyundai over to X. That feels like quite a big jump.
Yeah.
What have been the perceptions maybe you had of X as a platform and a business compared to reality? How's it been since you started?
Well, it is a big question. And a lot of people did think it was a really big move. And some people were really surprised. But, Hyundai is an incredible company. I had an incredible opportunity there, and it was fantastic. And a lot of people ask me, well, why did you leave? 5 years, almost 5 years as CMO, that's a long tenure. While it was still great, and I love the company and always will be a cheerleader for it, I was feeling a little bit like maybe it was time to take another opportunity. And it is true. I knew Linda Yaccarino, who's the CEO of X, and was very excited about her choice to go to the platform when she had taken the job. She's just hit her 2-year anniversary, but she had a long-standing career at NBC Universal. And I thought that was bold, and I thought it was incredible. I thought it was terrific. And so we remained close and in conversation, and, we just ended up having a discussion at one point, and she said, would you ever think about leaving Hyundai? And I said, maybe, depends on the opportunity. And I think I thought at the time there was, and I still believe this actually, that there is no other social media platform that is probably talked about more than X. The rapid innovation of the platform, the excitement of our ownership under Elon Musk, and there is really no surrogate for the platform. We are in constant conversation about what's next, and the list is immense. I mean, even preparing to talk to you today, I thought this is just the most dynamic and culturally relevant platform out there, and to be asked to come do global head of marketing and the job that's behind that is a really big one. People ask me all the time, what's it like? Is it, how does it compare to Hyundai? I say now it's the same, but it's different. There was long-term planning for Hyundai, let's say for car launches. But it was a day-to-day conversation on how to hit those sales goals. It's a little bit the same at X. I mean, of course, we're not launching any cars, but we have long-term goals that we have to hit as a company, but we're actively driving every single day to help our advertisers come back to the platform. And then, of course, because it's literally a reflection of what's happening in culture, we're reacting to it as well. So, and, it's under the leadership of Elon Musk. I mean, I think everyone knows now his philosophy on how he runs business. He came in, he doged it, I guess. The doge wasn't a term we knew 2 years ago, but, we don't say we're a startup because it was a company that existed before in the name of Twitter. But we're a restart. And so we are scrappy, and we work very, very hard together, and we have very aggressive goals. So, I mean, it is dynamic, and it's very exciting.
I mean, you mentioned Elon there. You've got an incredibly famous owner.
Yes.
Everyone's got an opinion about X as a platform, far more than they have of other social media platforms as well. What kind of challenges does that bring you as the person that's leading marketing? And I guess the flip side of that is what opportunities might that give you as well? Yeah,
it is a challenge, but it's also an opportunity. I mean, we think he's incredibly fantastic. I mean, I think history will prove that he'll be one of the most instrumental people of the 21st century, bar none. How he all gets it done in one day, or I have no idea. He's got a lot. He's really been instrumental, and for us, he is the visionary of the platform. I mean, what was Twitter, which was a limited character text-based platform, has now aggressively grown in the last 2 years to be a video-centric. With over 300 new products that have been delivered on the platform, a lot of innovation in brand safety, and just incredible momentum forward. And now we've just announced about a month ago the merger between X AI, his AI company, and X, which makes it one of the most dynamically and relevant AI platforms available, because the benefit to XAI is that it's learning from a dynamic and real-time platform that's fueled by real conversation. And for X, it provides a lot of innovation, personalization, and real-time insights that's going to make your feed be so much more personalized to you. So there's benefits on both sides. But all of that is under his leadership, and so we embrace that. While people have opinions about him, he's a user of the platform, and in many ways using it to express his opinions, which we hope that's what everybody does. And we have now community notes in place to help with misinformation or disinformation. And so we hope it's a neutral place for a lot of people to come, with nearly 600 million users on the platform today. So that's a lot to unpack in that question, but he's been fantastic, I think, for us overall.
Yeah, I mean, you sort of referenced it there, but the whole free speech angle, I think, is a really big part of it. I mean, I think he would say, wouldn't he? That's one of the reasons why the acquisition happened, was to protect everyone's right to free speech.
Yeah, free speech, and unlike in other parts of the world, like EMEA, free speech is a cornerstone of the Constitution of the United States. It's the First Amendment. So it is really important. And, legacy media has been found, without a stat for me to name for the audience, to be a little biased in many senses. And it's also a little behind in breaking news. That's what's amazing about X. We have almost every political forefront personality on the platform, celebrities on the platform, and they actually break big news on the platform. For example, President Biden, he announced his removal of himself from the presidential election last fall on X. Tom Brady, a pretty famous NFL football player, announced his retirement on X. Beyonce announced her Cowboy Carter tour on X. They didn't do it on legacy media. So that's one of the profound differences, is that it's really happening in real time, and that's what makes it great. And then people get to express their opinions. The other thing is, we found the big difference between X and the other social media platforms were really positioned, or maybe depositioned differently from the others, is that this platform is where people come to be leaned in. They are actively engaged. Where there are other platforms where maybe you're just doing the swipe, the swipe, the swipe. That's a very tuned out, leaned back behavior. We want to keep people leaned in, and I think that dialogue you still do on the platform is what makes it unique, and that's what we love about it.
The thing, it's interesting you said that. The thing I've really embraced with X actually has been, when some breaking news story happens, I look to X to find out the alternative point of view. Yeah. So, I mean, so many examples, but I mean, like the Trump assassination attempt was just wild, because what was being reported in the media compared to on the ground, real-time accounts from people that were there, it was much quicker. Yeah. It turned out to be much more accurate in terms of what people were saying on the ground than what was being reported. It's incredible. And then in terms of we talk about fact checking, don't we?
Right.
But you take like COVID, for example, which is just wild, because at the time, of course, no one would talk about the lab leak theory as an example, but on X you could find scientists who were kind of explaining what most likely turned out to be the case. But again, you wouldn't know that unless you had an alternative media source.
Yeah, it is a place for people to put information out immediately. It is a little bit of citizen journalism, a lot of it's opinion, but to your good point, as a user, you're scrolling and you're looking at everyone's input. And then collectively, you can decide on what the right answer is. But you are getting multiple voices with multiple points of view. We find that one of the number one reasons why, especially markets like Japan, which has happened when they had their unfortunate big earthquake, it was the platform that people could go to about giving updates on if they were safe or where they were, what was happening with certain communities. We saw this here in Los Angeles with the unfortunate Palisade fires. It was really hard, and I live here in Los Angeles, and it was hard to find out what was happening. But you go to X, and people are giving you real-time information who are on the ground giving you updates. So that's really fantastic. We see this happening a lot. So it is that forum. It is, what we would say the global town square, where many voices come together collectively to help put together the picture of very complex situations. And when they happen in real time, the story unfolds. But that's what's kind of exciting. People want to know what's happening in the now. They don't want to wait till someone's wrapped up the whole story and give it to me in a week of what happened. They do want to know what's happening right now, and that's what actually X can give you.
The other interesting thing, I've been running an experiment for about 3 or 4 years on X, which is having 2 different accounts where I actively choose people with different political persuasions. And what's really, really interesting about that is, you take the presidential election last year, seeing the reaction to the same event being reported completely differently, almost as if it's a win for that particular side. It was wild. And it was really interesting in the UK, actually, because our politics would lean probably one way. And some well-known politicians in the UK were completely flummoxed by Trump winning. It was almost like they didn't believe it. They just could not.
Right.
And yet I was following accounts on both sides, but what I was following, it was not a surprise at all. And it's
such a good point.
It's so interesting how our view of the world and our perception of the world is so influenced by the news we consume and where we get our news from. And I think there's almost an accountability, isn't there, to make sure that Caitlin Moran, who's a journalist in the UK, actually wrote about this fairly recently, saying how she's perfectly curated her algorithm to sort of train the algorithm to make sure that she gets the right kind of content. And I think that's a really important thing, isn't it? Because otherwise we can get down these rabbit holes of...
You can, definitely. But I think you make a really good point. I mean, the U.S. election's a really good one to understand how information in different places, other than one that's dynamically driven by content by many, really got it wrong. Even up to the last minute, the legacy media had really predicted that Kamala Harris was going to win. And come to find out, not even close. But if you had actually been following on X... or there's some betting sites that actually, you could even bet on the election if you want to. They were actually predicting that Trump was going to win, which is where people were putting their real money, which was really fascinating. So I think when you get to a point where you have a social media platform where other people can participate in the conversation, you are not going through that singular focused, channel of how the news comes out. And I do think bias runs both ways, but that's what I like about the platform is that if you open yourself up to other voices, you can get a full picture. And that's ultimately the best way to make a decision. So I think it depends on the individual user. I try to have my own feed be filled with all kinds of voices so you can see both sides. And also to understand how people feel if they don't really agree with your point of view and understand why they're not agreeing with you. I think that's a good way to come to a place where we have middle ground, which is what I think we all need these days. So
100%.
It'll be an interesting chapter in history. I do think it's very heightened right now, but maybe with social media platforms like X trying to stand for things like your voice matters and can be heard here, as long as it's not inciting violence or harmful content, your point of view is actually your point of view, and you should be able to express it.
It's a good thought, though, because, as you say, it's very easy, isn't it, to kind of only hear voices that are the same as yours and to get more and more down a certain path or something. What's the role of the X platform to help people think differently and broaden their minds? Because as a society, it feels like, we're breaking apart a bit, aren't we? We're becoming more polarised on political issues. And actually, there's potentially a role where it can unite us by helping us see the other side.
It is up to the individual user. My timeline, it will look different from yours, that's for sure. But I do think things are interesting. We just held last week in New York what we call Client Council. It's a meeting for our top advertisers and holding companies. It was part of New Fronts. And in between each speaker's section, we put up on the screen a QR code, and then one of the speakers who was ready to speak, their top people to follow on the platform, with the idea of, how to enhance your timeline, basically. So, open up your aperture to different voices, different areas of maybe interest that you hadn't thought before, because I think who you follow really makes a difference.
Huge.
But that is something to think about. It was actually a clever little thing we did just for that meeting.
The people I respect the most, actually, on X are those people that really think about what influence they want in their feed. It might be looking at how to prioritize your day. It might be looking about health and fitness. It might be kind of mental health in terms of how you think about it. But really thinking about, what do I want to be fed in a positive sense rather than a negative sense, and kind of training the algorithm accordingly, and really think about whose voice you want in your head.
Back.
Yeah,
we'll add that. But I do think that could be the power of the platform, honestly, because you can follow it in a way that you can hear voices that you just only want to hear from. I personally think that that's limiting. I follow people that people would probably be surprised I follow, but I like to hear what they have to say because I think that helps you give you greater understanding.
Yeah, I've got a handful of people I follow. Well, I'd probably say I disagree with 99% of what they say. It drives me slightly angry.
It's hard not to comment sometimes, but you're like, oh, that's their point of view.
I'm trying to make sure that I always remain open to both sides. I might be unusual like that, but I sort of get weirdly obsessed with making sure I've got both points of view in my feed.
Yeah.
So I can go, okay, who do I think has called this one right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's a hard practice, but I think it's something that from a societal standpoint it's a good thing because we all are different and we all come at things from a very different perspective. But I do think that there's been a higher propensity for people to go with one side of the voice versus the other, and lack of understanding or dialogue between the two has really gotten to an all-time low. That's not a good thing. So I think anything we can do to help both sides have greater understanding so we can come to a place where we can all live a little more civilly with each other would actually be a really good thing.
But that would be a really, really good outcome.
It'd be a really good thing.
And you mentioned Tom Brady earlier as well. And I think maybe the primary reason most people use X is just to get the latest breaking news on their sports team or big transfers and that sort of thing. Is that right? Because my impression is that's certainly why I started, was following my cycling team, my football team.
It's 100% correct. It's 80% of the reasons why people come to X is because of sports, no doubt. I think people think right now it's for politics and news, but that's not the case. It's sports, then it moves down to lifestyle, entertainment, any type of media, music, movies, etc. And then it moves down into news and politics. But it's just been so heightened, I think, with politics because we've been in some very big electoral moments for both in EMEA and the United States. So people are like, oh, it's just a place for news and politics. No, it's a place for sports. But it's huge for the U.S. It's huge also for markets like EMEA. And there are big moments. During Champions League, Declan Rice hit the 2 goals within 7 minutes. I mean, massive conversation explodes on the platform. And we just had some major moments in U.S. sports. We just had the NFL draft. Shador, he took a little bit to finally get drafted. I mean, 400% times more posts. He was just really somebody people were watching. And it just took so long. It just, lots of conversation, which was incredible. Luka, who was a basketball player who was traded from the Dallas Mavericks to the LA Lakers, also massive conversation on the platform. So it's about trading, it's about games. Super Bowl is a big U.S. event. It's the largest day in the U.S. for where eyeballs go. So it's a great day for football, American football, but it's a great day for advertisers. And we saw a tremendous spike this year over year on Super Bowl because people are engaging in real time. But we see it in all sports across the board, globally and locally in the U.S. So it's where fans come to congregate. I mean, who's more engaged than a sports fan? We see a fantastic upgrade. And now we've launched what we're calling X Portals, which are curated experiences on the platform. We started with the NFL. We moved into the NBA. There's a time period called March Madness, which is college basketball, which there's lots of games and betting. We did they call it March Madness, but we called it the X Bracket Challenge. I think we had the best first prize, which was if someone had picked a perfect bracket, they got a trip to Mars. That's because we have
only you could offer that.
We had an owner who had an entree into giving that as a prize. No one won it. No one got a perfect bracket.
Yeah.
But it's a very brand safe environment because it's content that we do with all of those league partners, which we have deep relationships with. So all NFL curated content, all NBA curated content. So that's where fans can go to check stats and updates and games and also converse and see really great content all in one place. Some of those leagues today, I don't know if I could speak to that intelligently for EMEA, but it's a very bifurcated experience. So NFL in the U.S. is on multiple streaming platforms, hard for hardcore fans to get all the content in one place. It is a second screen experience, but that's what people are used to today.
Yeah.
At least you can see all things NFL in one place. And so that it's just to give a better user engagement, and fans love it. And more to come. We'll do a lot with F1, of course, FIFA coming up, and then Olympics, and that'll be incredible platforms for just fans globally to engage.
And you mentioned brands as well. One thing that I think is unique about X is that brands can enter the conversation in a very simple and funny way and get absolutely talked about. I mean, it's a bit of a sad example. My football team, soccer team in the UK, almost set the record for the worst season in history in the Premier League.
Sorry to hear that.
I know, it's been a tough year, right? Yeah. And Derby County hold the record, and we managed to draw with Manchester City at the weekend. And within minutes, our team had said, sorry to get your hopes up, Derby County, basically, because Derby were hoping that we would be worse than them and we would take the crown of worst ever, Premier League, team. But it seems to be somewhere where brands can be a bit funny, they can have a tone of voice, and they can insert themselves in the conversation in kind of clever ways.
Memes are the central part. I mean, they are hilarious. The internet is a very, very funny place at the end of the day. But some brands do it really well. Some of them have incredible community managers. We should give an award.
Big shout out to community managers.
Big shout out to community managers.
You should have a league of the community managers behind the best tweets.
That's actually a great idea because, you have to be in real time. That's one of the hard parts of the job is actually, someone will say, did you see what just broke on X? And I'm like, no, I was in 3 meetings. Like, what happened? And it could be major news. I'm sure major things happened this morning. I've missed it as I was getting ready to speak to you today. But that's the dynamic part of it. But there's some really hilarious ones that have happened recently. Moodang, it was a hippo that went viral from, I think, Asia, and it went all over the globe. Brands were hilarious about their postings about that. Then to celebrities like Ben Affleck, he went through a time in his life recently where he just didn't look like he was all that happy. It's called Sad Affleck. Lots of brands had things to say about that. But even recent ones, it was actually an influencer on TikTok. His name is Ashton Hall. He did this crazy morning routine. He gets up like 4:30 in the morning, he works out, and he drinks this Saratoga water. That's the brand. It's this blue bottle. And then later he dunks his face in a bowl of ice water and with the Saratoga water. And memes went crazy. Brands jumped on it. But those new memes didn't happen on TikTok. They came over to X, which I think was really interesting, where brands really jumped in on that. And then the latest one, of course, was the announcement of Pope Leo XIV.
Oh, genius. Yeah.
So many funny ones. The best was Popeyes, which is a fast food franchise in the U.S. I don't know if you guys have it in
the UK as well. Yeah.
And it was Pope, yes. I mean, I was thinking, how long was someone waiting to have that be their...
Someone because I was on LinkedIn going, someone tell me if this was pre-planned. And apparently, yes, it was.
Well, kudos for them.
Someone was waiting for this to happen and it had been ready to go for a few days.
A+ for that community manager who actually had content to, precede what they were going to put out there on social media. And the other one that was hilarious, that I thought it was funny, Jeff Bezos did his Blue Origin launch with Lauren Sanchez and Katy Perry and other celebrities. And then Katy Perry, when she landed, kissed the ground. And somebody, I forget the brand, but they wrote, I kissed the ground and I liked it. I mean, it was funny. So I think you can be a little cheeky and humorous, and brands can have fun and participate in the conversation much differently in that forum than you can in different settings and social media platforms. So we love it. We bring them on. I mean, the more that we could get of that, I think the better.
Well, I know in my day job at System 1, actually, we study a lot of what creates an emotional response. And particularly online, surprise and humour are like the two most effective things. So something I didn't expect that interrupts you, that, I wasn't expecting that. Or, as you say, having a cultural joke about something or making people laugh or smile.
It's so funny.
It's highly effective. We remember those things, don't we? So
and I think everyone, every now and again, needs that little bit of break, that little bit of humor in the day. I mean, sometimes it all can seem so serious, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of heavy news out there. And information. I mean, I think we're all suffering from a little bit of information overload just by the way our lives are so digitally connected now. So when you get that moment of a break that actually goes, oh, yeah, that's actually really funny. I'm glad somebody said it. And now I get to take advantage of it. And I think it just brings joy to people. And I think that's why they lean in and they engage further.
It's a very British example of this, but the best one for me personally in the UK is there's a German supermarket called Aldi. I think you have it here.
Yeah, we do have it here.
You have the same supermarket.
We do.
M&S, which is probably the most upmarket supermarket, they have this very famous cake called Colin the Caterpillar. It's like a caterpillar chocolate cake, right?
Hilarious.
But Aldi are famous for copying everyone else's ideas. So they have Cuthbert the Caterpillar, right? Anyway, M&S sued them for copyright infringement. Now, rather than just counter-sue and get into a legal spat, on their X feed, basically, they did a free Cuthbert kind of meme, and it had Cuthbert in jail, basically.
Oh, hilarious.
And so they were basically trolling M&S, but everybody was on Aldi's side. So even though they were technically in the wrong or infringing the copyright, they won the public debate because they just made a joke about the fact they were being bullied and that Cuthbert was in jail and please join our campaign to let Cuthbert out. And there were memes upon the memes, and it just became this big thing. And M&S tried to respond, by suggesting they came up with, Kevin the carrot cake rather than Cuthbert. Anyway, but it's just funny to see like brands, Aldi clearly won that one, but M&S was struggling to find their tone of voice.
Yeah.
How do we deal with this?
How do we deal with this?
Our lawyers are telling us we can't talk about it. And,
it is funny. I mean, that's a great example. And I'm sorry I missed that one. But I do think brands that spar with each other, I guess that's the way I would put it. But as long as it has, I think, a light tone to it, I think fans will engage. No one wants it to get nasty and down to the real, legal brass tacks. But if you can have fun with it, and will a brand win out over another? Yeah, public sentiment will sort of rule the day. But good for M&S for getting in there, trying to stand up for what they thought was right, and public sentiment, went with Aldi. But I think that's interesting territory for even a brand marketer to think about. But using social media to sort of fight back.
Absolutely.
And if you do it in a way that has a sense of humor, I think 9 times out of 10, both sides actually kind of win.
Yeah, you couldn't be more right. Now, talking about brands, obviously, one of the challenges you faced over the last couple of years is advertisers taking their spend off the platform. And I think advertising revenue was down 40-50%, I think, a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Thank you for reminding us.
Sorry about that. So bring the tone down a little bit. Yeah, exactly. And I know in the UK, I think it's different here, but kind of trust and trust in the platform is down a lot last year. And if I were to phone up let's say the top 10 people I know in media, most of them would say their main concern with X would be brand safety, right? So what's kind of happened in the last kind of couple of years to address that, and where are advertisers now? I mean, I know some big high-profile advertisers, Disney, Apple, Unilever left the platform a couple of years ago. Where are you in terms of kind of winning them back?
Yeah, such a big question.
Apologies for the...
No, it is an important one because it's certainly going to be part of our history. We're always going to have to, I think, remember. And it was true after acquisition, when Elon Musk bought the platform, a lot of advertisers did leave for multiple reasons. One of the biggest was that, yes, we did remove sort of that centralized content moderation from the platform and went to Community Notes. Today, Community Notes, which I previously said has about 1 million people within that group of community noters, has now been adopted by YouTube. It's been adopted now by Meta, who announced that in January at CES, and now just recently of TikTok. So what was sort of this bizarre way of moderating the platform has now become sort of the industry standard, which we're thrilled about. We think that's really fantastic, and we'll continue to improve Community Notes with input now from other social media platforms. We put updates on our platform on how it constantly can be improved, and that's fantastic. The other part of it is that we have partnerships now with IAS and Double Verify that help us with our brand safety. We're happy to report that our brand safety and brand sustainability are in the upper 90s, so we're on par with our other platforms now. And then 96 out of the top 100 advertisers are back, which is really great. Now, some of that is timing. There were a lot of things. We listened. Our CEO, Linda Yaccarino, she is incredible with what she's done to help, I think, have this one-to-one conversation with top advertisers and holding companies about the fuller picture of what is available to them on X. We have incredible reach with a huge user base, and then we have a lot of tools in place to really make it a very interesting place for advertisers to show up. And so she's been having that hard conversation. Even still, in the background, we were doing the hard work that advertisers had asked us to do. And that's been the biggest thing, is listening to what the issues were and having us respond as a platform. And we have done a lot of that hard work. So we have some big advertisers who are back. And we're finding out now that other advertisers are like, wait a minute, if XYZ is on the platform, maybe I need to be there too. So we have some bold CMOs who, whether they had budgets that allowed them to do innovation or some kind of testing on the platform. They've made some big bets with us, and they have turned out to be really fantastic. And so now we're getting a new audience of advertisers to lean in and said, help me understand how I can show up too. So I think we're certainly not at what we are pre-acquisition levels of advertising spend, but we're eking our way up. And, we've had a new updated valuation for the platform, which was on par to what it was when Elon purchased it. So we're in good fiscal health. We feel very bullish on the future, and we feel really good about where we are right now.
I mean, kudos on community notes. I just think it's a really clever, smart thing to do. I think I can't remember the exact detail. I'm sure I saw Mark Zuckerberg talk about if he tried to centrally moderate every content across Meta, he'd have to spend billions in terms of employing an entire army. So it just makes common sense, doesn't it? You need to find a different mechanism to more effectively moderate content.
I agree, and I think it also comes back to maybe what you said earlier about, having multiple voices with multiple points of view, provide that moderation. So I think that's really helpful. I mean, it is true with community notes. It really helps for people who have posted and that they got a community note. They're 60% less likely to repost it. And then the original author of it is 80% likely to delete it. So it is freedom of speech without freedom of reach, and it is this global platform of community noters that is helping it be, a good, safe place for content, which then means it's a good place for brands to show up.
You mentioned Elon getting involved in politics as well. I think that's a really big part of this, the whole situation, because there's a really interesting bit of research actually done in the UK just after Brexit. So Brexit was our big kind of divisive moment where, everyone fell down, rather than falling down left and right wing lines, everyone was like, either you'll leave or remain. And it was really fascinating. These couple of guys, Andrew Tenzer and Ian Murray, did a brilliant bit of research called the empathy delusion. And it was quite fascinating that what they identified is that people that work in advertising and marketing are much more likely to be Remain voters, almost entirely Remain voters. But they also, in terms of moral frameworks, were far more individualistic and driven by fairness of the individual and less about the kind of group society cohesion. And where that played out was they'd be far less likely to support somebody on the other side than the normal person in the street. So most people, if you ask them, would be very happy to go for a drink or, see their son or daughter date someone who, supported the other side of the argument. But in advertising and marketing, they really wouldn't. They'd be very unlikely to do that because they'd let the politics get in the way of the transaction. So I think it was interesting that's, given that that's the audience deciding on the spend, making decisions on where that goes, I think that plays out a lot with this. And I know there's similar data in the US about where left versus right and whether they feel, happy to have a meal with someone of the opposite persuasion and so on. The same sort of dynamic plays out, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100% true. I do think this is an interesting study, and I hadn't heard that until you had told me about it. I do see this actually in some of my own personal interactions with other CMOs. It's really, I think, a block. I think it's a hard thing to explain to someone like, look, your personal bias interest is not good for the ultimate benefit of the brand or service that you're representing and trying to grow. You have users on this platform, and a lot of them. And they're not all bad people. They do sit on both sides of the aisle. So why would you not think about it in a new and fresh way? I think that bias is actually really true, and I think it's a hard thing for CMOs to overcome. But you have to remove yourself. There was a quote recently that someone said, and I'm going to butcher it, so I'm going to surmise it. But it was basically the reason why great creative dies is because everyone's dying to have an opinion. And I think opinions need to actually be removed from the conversation. Data is also a great one to drive a lot of decisions. And honest conversation about what's reality and what's perception. And again, I go back to that hard work that Linda Yaccarino did with some of these brands and holding companies was like, let me hear your issues. Here's where we really are as a platform. And what else do I need to do to help overcome your concerns? And it's breaking down those barriers. And that's just, X in particular of how we're overcoming some of that bias. But it's true. There are sometimes individuals that can keep, us moving forward with advertisers, which is actually a shame because you're actually missing out on a very engaged audience.
Well, it's almost like rule number one of marketing is you are not the customer. It starts, doesn't it, with understanding your customer. It's interesting you say in terms of people missing out. Presumably then, advertisers that have come back to the platform have maybe got an advantage, because it's a bit like game theory. If everyone else is not moving and you're the one to move, presumably there's some advantages to doing that.
Absolutely. When we've had some great partners in our advertising community that have come back and come back in a strong way, doing very bold things, doing very creative things with us. The portals have allowed us to do a lot of things where we've been able to help brands come back, and they're seeing huge gains in some of those decisions. And I think now it's the same thing that was true before, right? People were leaving the platform, oh, maybe I need to too. Now it's people are coming back, and we see that brands are having a little bit of FOMO, saying, actually, maybe I need to find out more here. So I think that's a good thing. But I mean, kudos to the brands that actually stepped in first and said, let me give this a try, because they saw that the highly engaged audience, plus all the innovation on the platform, there is just a place for X in their media buy, and that's what we want.
Now, another thing Elon's famous for, I think, is certainly in terms of managing Tesla, is not advertising. And there's always a big debate.
Breaks
in marketing.
Breaks my heart.
There's always a big debate, isn't there, in marketing? Well, can you survive without advertising? Well, look at Tesla. It's become the most valued car company in the world without advertising. I've always argued, though, that Elon is a media channel in his own right.
And he did lots of promotion in different ways. It was different than traditional advertising. But there was a lot of promotion, and he himself was part of that. I mean, he's associated with the Tesla brand. But yes, as a true brand marketer, it breaks my heart just a wee bit. But I do understand it.
But with that in mind, I'm just curious to know from your point of view, what marketing-wise, in terms of X and the future of X, what's your plan to market it? Because you're marketing to marketers, right?
Mostly.
Which is a curious,
Yeah. So my job is really two parts. One part has been the part I've been living and breathing since I came here 6.5 months ago, which is what we would call sales enablement. So yes, marketing to the marketers, supporting our sales team and all of the materials that they need, events and so on that help fuel that conversation, which is a huge, huge thing to do. But there is this other part that is, part of the remit too, which is how do we actually grow our platform beyond our current monthly active users? And the big way that we're going to be able to do that is if eventually we go off our own platform and we speak to people who actually don't have us as part of their repertoire of social media platforms they go to every day. So we have been working in the background on a brand campaign. We're not quite ready to launch it. We have some individuals that we need to bring into that conversation. I think it's fantastic. I think it's actually what we need, because when Twitter was switched from Twitter to X, and then the vision of the Everything app was set out, there's a lot of difference between who we were before and who we are today. And a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know how to really use the platform to their best benefit. And so we like to educate, but also get people excited about the power of the platform and why you should do it. Really, it's about, we're positioned as whatever is breaking in culture, you have to go check X. There's no surrogate for that. There's no other social media platform that's going to give you that information. So we have this beautiful campaign. We hope to launch it someday. As a brand marketer, I'm salivating to do it because I know it'll have huge impact. I think people will get it instantly and be excited about what the platform actually delivers. But yeah, there's a lot of hard work yet to be done there and yet to be manifested. And so, we hope that we'll be able to do it.
It's a good point about changing the conversation, isn't it? Because most of the conversation has been about job cuts or brand safety or Elon's political points of view. And you kind of need to shift, don't you, to this is the future and this is how we kind of see the platform.
Yeah, those headlines seem to take over.
They do, don't they?
Which is really about the blocking and tackling of how to run a company, which honestly, to the credit, it is a very fiscally sound company. We were about 8,000 people, I believe, when he purchased the platform. We're hovering around 1,300. We are scrappy and we're lean. We don't say we're a startup because we were a company before, but we are very much like a restart company. So we work really hard every day trying to achieve a lot of goals at the same time. And it's like goals go this way and then you all move forward. There's not one individually. But it's in the spirit of becoming fiscally sound and I think to do great things, big, bold things. And Then the real part of the company, the real innovation, the actual engagement that you get on the platform, that conversation becomes secondary because everybody's talking about what happened when the acquisition happened. I mean, that's been 2 years now. So we're ready to have a different conversation and let people know behind the curtain how much has been done. I don't think there's been as much innovation that's been done on any social media platform as much as there's been on X. It's just so much to talk about, which is why we do meetings like the Client Council, which we did in New York. We're about ready to do one in London in June ahead of Cannes Lion. And, we just need more people to understand about everything that has been done in the spirit of making this, one of the most I think, positive and foundational social media platforms that people can engage with.
Yeah. You mentioned the Everything app as well.
Yeah.
What's included in the Everything?
Everything.
Like, literally.
There's been a lot. I mean, one has been bringing video more forward. So now we have the video tab. But we have new formats like vertical video and other types of video that really helps brands show up in a much more engaged way on the platform. So huge innovation with just video. Next is developments on potential things like XTV, which are still in development, but that could actually cast your X experience on your TV screen a little bit like a YouTube experience, I've been told, which would be great. We are about ready to launch this year X Money. Visa is a partner in that. That'll simulate like a peer-to-peer payment type application where you can exchange money through a section on the app, and you could actually earn interest on the money that you hold within the app, which will be really interesting and exciting. A whole new dynamic of how money can exchange within the app, which hasn't really been done before. And then we're working towards things which we're now calling XDM, which is more of a private conversation part of the app, which will be another great thing that's coming. So just a lot of innovation on user engagement. And of course, then the X portals are huge. And then we haven't even talked about X Originals, which that part of the company is just original content that we develop just for X. So we've developed 17 shows since this division has been started, which has been about a year ago. But we have incredible creators like Anthony Pompliano, who has the show The Desk from Anthony Pompliano that's just for X. And then he shares clips on other platforms. And then Chloe in Wonderland, which her show is blowing up. She has about 30 million followers. I think there's over 120 million views of her shows. I think I have that stat right. I mean, it's massive to have a celebrity like that. And we are about to announce, I couldn't say it today on this show, which I wish I could, but another huge celebrity who's going to do another show on the platform, which is going to be fantastic. So all of that is other innovation that's happening. And then all of our partnerships with all of the sports leagues is continuous. So that's a lot of work that's being done in real time. And then, constant innovation on our ads manager portion of the platform, which allows advertiser to create better and more effective ads using Grok, which is the agent for XAI that's integrated into our platform, which is giving a lot more ROI and just speed to market, giving real results on how those campaigns are working in real time. So tons of work with an incredible team across the country that is just trying to make this the best platform possible.
I've noticed the Grok integration has been really smart as well. Something I've noticed, I don't know if it's you see it across the platform, but if there's anyone is unsure about a post, they just literally just go, ask Grok, is this real? And then you just get this really intelligent answer citing different sources and explain. So I can really see that. I mean, it's a simple example, but that's another example of content.
It's actually a very utilitarian way to use it. AI is rapidly becoming the most fascinating thing that I think we're seeing, not just on our platform, but across the board. Link-based search is, if you're not using AI and don't see the power of it, it would be hard to go back to, honestly, just a regular Google search. Well, they have their own AI. The thing that's interesting about Grok is that it's fueled by XAI, which is now the largest supercomputer in the world. They call it Colossus. It sits in Memphis, Tennessee in the United States. It was literally started and working in 122 days, which is phenomenal. I think a normal company might have taken years to do that. And it started with 100,000 GPUs, rapidly within 3 months went to 200,000. I think by 2026, it'll be over 1 million. So that incredible computer power is what's actually fueling the intelligence that you see in the application like you just mentioned, which is really incredible. And the thing that makes now X really unique and XAI really unique is that XAI is learning from a dynamic, real-time, culturally relevant platform that is happening with real human conversation. All the other large language models are learning on a static database. So if you, like, for example, the way they learn is, latest information, you have to wait for someone to write an article and post it to the internet. Where XAI has the benefit because of our relationship of sister companies now being merged closer together, you're getting that in real time. So it's rapid.
That's really interesting.
You could ask about something about the Pope, just like Pope Leo the 14th, on the moment it's happening, and you would probably have real-time information coming up on Grok. So the power is really immense, and we're really excited about what it's going to do next. The innovation behind that team is really fantastic, and it's a game changer. And so it's rapidly becoming, the leading reasoning AI out of the group. While ChatGPT has the most users because it's been around for a couple of years, we think that XAI and Grok will definitely start taking some leadership position there.
Well, to that point, I think I saw a tweet from Elon showing that where Grok was ranked maybe a year ago, I think it was a year ago, to now from, I think it was 10, 12th place or something up to second. And the point he made, which I totally agree with, is momentum is everything. Like momentum
Speed to market is everything.
Exactly. Speed and momentum is what predicts kind of future success. So
yeah, it's really great. It is really and it's truth seeking, and that's why the real conversation on the platform is helping the actual agent, be one of the best, is because it's actually engaging in real time conversation.
That's what people, I think, don't realize, is that AIs are not like this homogenous thing where they all do the same thing. They've got inbuilt biases themselves that are quite radically different, actually. When you go and put the same prompt in a few different engines, how different you can get the answers.
How different you can get the answers. Yeah. So this is really exciting territory. So we'll see. Everyone has eyes on AI, and we certainly have our hand in it too. And we are thrilled about the partnership and how much smarter it's just going to make X for not just users. It'll make your timeline very personalized. We call it unregrettable user seconds. So that means it's just it's so personalized to you, it's going to feel great. But there's a lot to benefit the advertisers too. Just the scale of the platform, but now you get the personalization with doing AI targeting, AI audiences, the way that we can help you build your actual ad plans. But it's also giving you, speed to market, which actually helps with your ROI. So, just the power of all of that is just mind-blowing. It's just mind-blowing.
Well, maybe just finish up. Let's quickly talk about top tips if you're an advertiser, or top tips if you're on the platform as a creator. What would your advice to people be to take advantage of it as an advertiser or as a creator?
Well, first of all, get on X. That would be my first thing as just a user. And more people on the platform, the better. But if you don't really engage in the platform, you don't really know how to use it. And we have found that. We have some CMOs who were a little delinquent on being on the platform. We had to help them get back on and help them understand how to really take full advantage of it. So there's that. I would say for advertisers, for the last couple of years, because of our journey of where we've been, they tend to purchase advertising in key moments. Super Bowl, key sports events, or awards show, Met Gala, which was amazing. Rihanna showed the world her baby bump. And that tends to be like, you're on, you're off, you're on, you're off. And it's hard to upstart that. What you really could do is take advantage of understanding who your audiences are, which they are on our platform, finding those and having a consistent presence on the platform, and then spiking with these moments. So you have both. It's sort of an and strategy, not an or. So we're having deep dialogues with all of our advertisers on how they can take advantage of that and how to do it in a way that they can scale it and have positive ROI with also brand lift and performance. So there's a full suite of products there to help advertisers do that. So that's for our advertisers, and that's ongoing. And we will continue to listen to what the advertisers want. And be delivering on what that can actually offer them. From content creator strategy, I would say we are in still our development phases on what that looks like. Other platforms do some incredible tools for creators, which is great. And we look at those and think we need to replicate something similar for us on X. All of that, hopefully by the end of the year, will be a whole new content creator strategy with tools and monetization that equals our other social media platforms. So again, we have sort of a working task force that's going against that and understanding how important those creators are. We have some incredible creators today who have sort of figured out how the best way to use the platform. But for the greater scale of true creators and influencers in key markets, especially ones like EMEA, we could probably do a better job on delivering, I think, best in market type of capability. So we're working on that. And, that's part of our punch list of what we have to do as a platform. And, I think that's the spirit of X in general, is that we are never stopping. We are always listening and we are always responding, and we'll ever improve the platform day after day. And I think everyone at X actually has that positive attitude. And, it's an organic, moving social media site. I mean, the work will never be done, which is really interesting. And, but yeah, those are great things that are upcoming, and we're excited to be launching that really soon.
Amazing. Angela, it sounds very exciting. Thank you for sharing it all with us, and congratulations on everything that's been going on. It's been great to hear about it.
Great. Thank you so much. Great being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for listening or watching Uncensored CMO. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please do hit the subscribe button wherever you get your podcast. If you're watching, hit subscribe there as well. I'd also love to get a review. Reviews make a big difference on other people discovering the show. So please do leave a review wherever you get your podcast. If you want to contact me, you can do. I'm over on X at UncensoredCMO, or on LinkedIn, where I'm under my own name, John Evans. Thanks for listening and watching. I'll see you next time.